you just never know. How many of you a year ago would have been able to predict that this morning we'd be reading about the New Hampshire primary and the huge winners are Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders? How crazy what's going on? You never know. You never know. Which is not a bad segue to our topic today, preparing for the next big earthquake. Because you don't know when it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen again, but we don't know exactly when. Before I get into this, though, I do want to spend just a moment talking about something that happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and that is in my home state of North Dakota. You know, a glance at this picture reminds me why I'm so very glad to be a Californian now. My oldest sister moved out here in the late 60s. Part of the movement came out here, fell in love with the city, never left, never looked back. Took me about 40 years to figure it out before I followed her out here. But love this state, and my family all follow me out here, so we are now proud Californians. But this picture, in addition to sort of being a reminder why I'm glad I'm here, actually is a photo that was taken in 1997. During that time that I was the state insurance commissioner, we had a horrible winter that winter. Record low temperatures, record high snowfalls, and a spring that would never come. And so blizzards in February, blizzards in March, blizzard in early April. Well, this is a problem because as record snowfalls persist longer into the year, when the snow melt is pushed off and off, it's going to happen sooner or later. And when all the snow starts to melt late in the spring, there's trouble. This is the Red River, divides North Dakota and Minnesota, and unfortunately it flows north. So the further north it goes, the bigger the problem is. When all the snow started to go, we knew we had a problem on our hands, and so the communities along the river base desperately tried to prepare, throwing up sandbags to withstand record floods, and in the end it wasn't enough. This is an aerial photograph of Grand Forks, North Dakota, home of my alma mater, the University of North Dakota, a town of 55,000 people, entirely flooded on April 17th, 1997, when the dikes couldn't withstand the rising red. So, city entirely evacuated, 55,000 people. At the time, the largest evacuation of an American city since the Civil War. And this is not a fast-moving flood. It just kind of came up and stayed for a couple weeks. So it was a horrible problem. And some neighborhoods never recovered. As insurance commissioner, we got involved and did everything we could to help people in any way that we could. However, it was my first lesson that without adequate financial protection, there's very little that you can do to help a homeowner recover. Without a flood insurance policy, people were on their own. And far too many people did not have flood insurance, even those who lived in floodplain. Maybe the mortgage had been paid off, so there was no longer a requirement. Or maybe the bank was kind of asleep at the switch and didn't make sure that that mortgage was protected, even if it wasn't a floodplain. Without a flood insurance policy, people were on their own. Some homes, some families, some neighborhoods never recovered. It became really kind of a defining moment for me in my career. It's the time that I became passionate about the issue of financial recovery from a natural disaster. So that's my passion in life, which I admit makes me kind of weird, but you know, we all got our thing. And this is what came to define sort of what I'm mostly interested in, which is why I was so thrilled to get a call in 2008 to come out here and run the California Earthquake Authority, which is a very unique organization that I'm very proud of. And so, in the few minutes we have this morning, I'd like to spend some time talking about five things. Five things that I really want you all to know about earthquake insurance. First of all, some things are common knowledge, and I'm sure you're aware of this. The risk is real. Here in California, home to 2/3 of the nation's earthquake risk. You know, we don't have it all. I don't know if any of you saw the New Yorker article last summer. If you didn't, and you want to read a little bit about earthquake, Google New Yorker. I think the title of the article was the big one. It was a fascinating article about what's going to happen someday up in the Pacific Northwest when the Cascadia ruptures, and probably tsunami is going to destroy large portions of the coastline of Oregon and Washington. Anyway, it's an extremely well-done article. We don't have all the nation's risk, we just got 2/3 of it. And you can see on the heat map here where most of it lies, where everybody lives. We got about 37 million people in this state, and most live in areas of high seismicity, or within 30 miles of an active fault. And the scientists are in complete agreement. It's not a matter of if, it's when. I mean, the hands of the wheels of the geologic clock keep turning slowly, more slowly than our own time frame, so it's hard to sort of get our minds around geologic time. But it's moving. Tectonic plates continue to grind, and there will be the release of enormous pressure someday. It's just a fact of scientific life. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. What they can tell us as scientists is there's a 99% probability of a 6.7 or greater sometime in the next 30 years, somewhere in California. Now that's not real precise, but it's certainly definite. Somewhere here, a little better than 99% probability of a 6.7 or greater. Why 6.7? That was the size of the last really big earthquake in California, the Northridge earthquake, which was bigger than the San Francisco '89 earthquake. The Northridge earthquake in '94 was a 6.7. And that's going to happen again. So you might say, well, yeah, but that's all California. Let's bring it a little more locally. Well, it doesn't reduce the chances very much. In Northern California, the chances are 95% of that 6.7 happening sometime in the next 30 years. So the risk is real, and I do believe that for the most part in California, that's common knowledge. What a lot of people have not focused on is the benefit of earthquake insurance is real too. It hasn't always been that way, but it is now. And in order to help folks gain that understanding, we got to destroy some myths. Common myths, like, it's not going to happen to me. Well, that's kind of a head in the sands approach. I mean, yes, it may not have happened to you so far in your life. And that's one of the problems of getting people ready for earthquakes. They happen so rarely, you tend not to sort of put it into your consciousness. Or you think it's probably going to, yeah, I guess I understand the risk probably happens somewhere, but the odds of it happening to me are too high. All we can say to that is the risk is real, and a better approach would be to recognize that we live in this state, we live in earthquake country, and we have to be prepared wherever we live. So some people think, yeah, but if it's big enough, surely the government will step in and bail me out. That's a false hope. It doesn't happen. Ask the victims of Superstorm Sandy how they're doing if they didn't have adequate financial protection. And as the government come in and rebuild their home for them and hand them back the keys, it doesn't happen. There is government assistance, to be sure. I learned that back in that flood of '97. FEMA rushes to the front lines, and they do. They're good people, and they have programs, and they have FEMA grants, which are limited. $32,000 is really the cap now on a FEMA grant, and that's for urgent health needs or safety needs. Thank God it's there, but it doesn't rebuild homes. So there's government loans you can apply for, perhaps receive, but they have to be repaid. Another loan on top of your mortgage, and essentially you're on your own. You just borrow more money to basically rebuild if you can afford it. So the reliance on federal assistance is clinging to it also. A lot of people are confused about their own situation. They think they have a homeowner's policy, or they know they insure their home. So they figure if they have an earthquake, surely the insurance company is going to help them out. And that's not the case. In 1984, the California legislature said earthquake is not a part of the residential insurance policy. Broke it up, specifically excluded. Only way to be covered for earthquake is to obtain a separate earthquake insurance policy. So that is a myth that we need to continue to work on. Okay, now in talking about insurance, I've learned the hard way, at dinner parties and with friends, that you can make eyes glaze over really quick by starting to talk about insurance stuff. And this is one of those eyes glazing moments, so I'll try to get through it as quickly as possible. But it has to do with this word deductible, which means different things depending on the kind of insurance policy that one's dealing with. But in the case of earthquake insurance, all the deductible means, if you buy a policy, it has a deductible. It's stated as a percentage. Let's say 15%. There's more options now. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But let's say 15% is the deductible. That means that 15% of the insured value of the home has to be damaged before we can pay a claim. There's never a requirement that anyone pay anything out of pocket for that deductible. They don't have to pay any money to anybody before we pay our claim up to full coverage limits. Doesn't matter. You never have to pay any portion of that deductible. That's just the amount of damage that has to occur before we can start paying our claim for damages over and above that. It's different. The deductible works differently for us. Never have to pay out of pocket, ever, in order to receive the insurance amount. So you roll all those things together and you start to have the view that the benefit of earthquake insurance is real. Well, let's talk about the California Earthquake Authority for a second. I absolutely love this organization. And it's because of our public mission. So it brings me back to my public service. It's kind of a hybrid, this CEA is. And let me tell you how we were established. We were created in the aftermath of the Northridge earthquake in '94. So a little history prior to that. In '84, legislature said if you're a homeowner insurance company, you have to offer earthquake insurance separately. It's not covered in the homeowner's policy, but you have to offer a separate policy to be in the homeowner's market in California. That law came in '84. Insurance companies were okay with, I'm just going to name a few, State Farm, all state farmers, the ones you think of. Homeowners insurance companies, they were okay with that mandate. They weren't very concerned about the risk. Even the '89 earthquake in San Francisco didn't really alarm them because not about how homes were badly damaged. Someone here said we were lucky in home created, and we were right. But in 1994, one morning in January, the Northridge earthquake struck north of Los Angeles, and that was a different story. $40 billion worth of property damage. $20 billion of that was to homes. Insurance companies were paying out far more in claims than they ever thought they'd be exposed to. And that was the moment in time they said, wait a minute, we can't do this again. And yet, there was a state law that required them to offer it if they were in the homeowners market. So companies responded by saying, well, then we're not going to sell homeowners insurance in California. And that was a crisis that led to the creation of the California Earthquake Authority, because you got to have housing insurance in order to have a housing market, in order to have a state. And so, this thing was created on the fly, in crisis, by a group of folks who were working with the Insurance Commission, the legislature, and some insurance companies got together, and they kind of like a Manhattan Project, and they put this thing called the California Earthquake Authority together. Here's how this organization works. So the CEA bears the risk for earthquake insurance policies that are sold, CEA policies that are sold, but it's the companies who are our members who sell their policy for us. So let's just say, take one, State Farm, right under our logo. They're the homeowners market, they sell their homeowners policy. Their State Farm agent will then offer a CEA policy, and if the person buys a CEA policy, they are insured by us. We bear the risk, and we stand behind them when that earthquake strikes. So those are companies, about 19 or 20 of them. About 70% of the homeowners market is a part of the CEA. We're this publicly managed organization. We're not in the state budget, we're not a state agency, but we're managed by the governor, the insurance commissioner, state treasurer. They're our board members, our voting board members. The two leaders of both chambers of the legislature are non-voting members. So we have public oversight, but we're entirely privately financed, both from the money that came in from those companies they had to contribute in order to join, and ever since then from our policyholders with the premium. We collect premium, we manage risk on their behalf. Now we have close to 880,000 policies are now insured by the CEA. And we have a public mission, a not-for-profit public mission that can be summarized in our strategic plan, which is educate, mitigate, and insure. Help educate Californians about the risk, help them mitigate to make the homes safer, like some of you have told me you've done. And then put in place a meaningful insurance plan to help manage the risk of the unforeseen vulnerabilities that still exist. So educate, mitigate, insure. That's what we're up to. And as I tell people wherever I go, we're in this true. Yeah, we're in this for them. I spend my time in the private sector with a large insurance company. I know what it's like to have to meet bottom line requirements to send upstream to the corporate parent. That's not what we're about. We don't have shareholders. We don't have a corporate parent. We're in this for our policyholders to make earthquake insurance as affordable and available as possible. And beginning this year, January 1st, 2016, we offer a whole new wide range of options and choices to make this coverage more affordable and more attractive than ever before. We've been at this for a while. We've lowered rates whenever possible. The organization has done 4 major rate reductions since we were created back in '96. The most recent one being this year, 10% across on average, a 10% statewide overall rate reduction. So the cumulative effect of those things is, if you look at the premium for the average home in our portfolio now, the reconstruction value of that home is $450,000. If you look at what the rates back when we were created would have produced for a premium for that home, that $450,000 home, that premium would have been $1,400. But, and again, this is average, and the price varies depending on where that home is. It depends on address primarily, because it's relation to the default that really dictates the premium, but other factors play a role too, age of that home and so on. But on average, a $450,000 home in '96 would have cost $1,400 to insure, and based on these rate reductions, today it would be $675. Now, if you have an insurance policy with us, and your premium has been inching up there over the years, that's because the insured value of the home keeps going up. And of course, the premium then has to go up too, so collect enough to pay claims as the value of that home rises. But our rate reductions have helped hold the line on what otherwise would have been astronomical premium increases. We're working on this to make insurance coverage as affordable as possible on behalf of our policyholders. Lower rates and buy a better product. This is the second eyes glaze over moment, and so because I have to talk a little bit about what our policy covers. So very briefly, this is what we do. We insure the structure for its replacement costs, not its market value, not for what you get if you get these coverage elements. The stuff inside the home, $5,000 worth of coverage. Would be at a 50% deductible, which a lot of people have always felt is too high. Loss of use coverage in case you have to live outside of the home while your home being rebuilt or repaired, or in case the whole area is cordoned off for some reason, and you got to live elsewhere, $1,500. And the original policy had no incentive to retrofit older homes. There was no mitigation discount. Over time, we have, CEA has, on our own volition, because we're in this for our policyholders, expanded what we can offer our policyholders. And so now, while we still insure the structure for its replacement costs, $200,000 up to, you can choose up to $200,000 of your contents inside your home, with deductibles ranging now from 5% to 25%. Choose the deductible that you want. But lower deductibles are going to cost more because we're going to pay out much more likely because you're going to need that deductible more quickly. If you really want to guard against, the big one in the house cratering and reduce your monthly premium, choose a 25% deductible. And again, you don't have to write out a check for that deductible amount. You can collect your proceeds and do with it as you will when you decide how to rebuild going forward. Loss of use coverage now up to $100,000, real meaningful coverage if you've got to live elsewhere for a while. And finally, a meaningful and decent mitigation discount, providing incentives for people to retrofit their older homes and lower their risk and then lower their cost of earthquake insurance as a result. So we're seeing 2016 as the new day for the CEA. More options, more benefits, more ways for Californians to find a policy that meets their needs and budget. Which brings me to my last point in terms of our earthquake insurance policy. The consumer now really is in the driver's seat and can set this in a way that most meets their needs. And the way to do this, if you'd like, when you get home, pardon me, is just jump on our website, earthquakeauthority.com. I think our website is listed on that brochure. And on the home page of our website, you'll see this thing. It's a little premium calculator. This is also new. And it really designed it as user-friendly as possible, but if you get on there and have any questions, just give us a call. And here's how it works. You click up there where it says, let's get an estimate, and then you select what kind of coverage you want. Homeowners, renter insurance, renter's insurance. I should talk about that in a second. Condo coverage or coverage for mobile home owners. Let's say by way of example, you're a homeowner, you want to figure out how much it would cost to insure your home. So you click on homeowner. You'll fill out a couple bits of data of how old your home is and a few other things, and you can move through those two pages very quickly. And then you get to this page where you see this you see the little hand on that dial? Here, this person is selecting their deductible. In this case, it's a 15% deductible. And the other coverage elements are set where, in this case, just where they happen to be. But the point is, it produces a premium value on top, both monthly, and it shows what the annual amount is. And then you can see just by watching that bar move back and forth, what happens when you change your choices. Slide that 5% deductible, slide that 50% deductible down to 5% and see what it does to the premium needle. Move it over to 25% and see the premium go down. Make other choices in terms of how much personal property coverage you want or how much loss of use coverage you want. And select the premium that's right for you with the coverage that you feel meets your needs. And buy a policy. It's as simple as that. The consumer's in the driver's seat now, with choices that allow you to find the policy that meets your needs and budget. I would normally stop here, but I want to go on for just a second and talk about a program that we're offering. And the reason I need to talk about it today is because we're basically running a little lottery. And the opportunity to sign up for that lottery ends on February 20th. So we're in a 1-month process, and we got a couple weeks to go. And it's a lottery for people who live in older homes, who might be eligible to retrofit their home, and from us win the right to have us provide $3,000 worth of the cost of that retrofit. That's that separate flyer that I handed out, the Earthquake Brace and Bolt program. I'm just going to describe that real briefly. Earthquake Brace and Bolt program. We, by the way, held a press conference on this a couple weeks ago on the steps of the City Hall here in San Francisco with some city officials. It was a fun event to announce this 1-month period of time for people to sign up for this program. Earthquake Brace and Bolt program. For qualified homeowners, we'll provide up to $3,000 of the cost of the retrofit. And some of these retrofits don't cost much more than that, $3,000, $5,000, maybe $7,000. Lucky winners will receive from us $3,000, but not for all kinds of homes. They have to be a certain kind of home. They have to be homes that are built on top of a cripple wall. You know, that crawl space that exists when you walk up a few stairs to get to the main floor of the home. Has to be built prior to '79 because homes built after that were built to stronger building codes and basically don't require that sort of retrofit. And for this is a new program, but there's certain characteristics that the home must meet in order for us to select it this first go around. The homes that look like this, really. These were taken the morning of the Napa earthquake in August, a year or so ago. You see that cripple wall space, you walk up those stairs, you'll see those on the upper right-hand corner, the flimsy studs that home is sitting on top of, the crawl space that's underneath. Older construction didn't do a good enough job of tying that home to that foundation. It just sat on top of those stilts. And when the ground started shaking, the home topples off the foundation. We saw many examples of that in Napa, which was a very moderate earthquake. So homes that looked like this. These two homes were interesting. Very similar homes, looked like built about the same time. Home on the left had not been retrofitted, toppled off its foundation completely. The home on the right, which had been retrofitted, was fine. I mean, retrofitting works, and so we're wrapping up our efforts to help encourage more Californians to get into the home and do the right thing. This is what the crawl space looks like underneath, and there are contractors who are smaller than me who can go underneath and in this space, this is before shot, and this is the after shot. They put in plywood, they brace and bolt, they tie the home to the foundation, and they make that home much more capable of withstanding a shake without having a top-lock foundation. So new program.